I'm keeping storytelling as well as value tracking.
Okay. Storyteller, Gino. Any position? Kami topic?
System.
Again?
Fine. Storytelling.
Okay. Can you say it again?
With time taking and then storytelling.
Okay, okay.
Facilitator, policy keeper.
It's 7 o'clock.
Hey, are you gonna facilitate now?
Also, I have started streaming in my channel. Or do you want me to use your channel instead, Jake? Or the stream
No,
key?
it's fine. I mean, the main one would be obviously on the planetary session. So fine. But yeah, I can facilitate.
Okay.
Do we have a video indexer?
Yeah, I'll do video indexing.
All right. So why don't we start with check-ins? Oh, wait, also we can link.
Okay, let's check in.
We can link the videos and the recordings to the top.
Okay.
Under the planetary sessions, someone would find it there, and that would be your role, Albina, since you're the video indexer. You want to make sure the video is working. And then I think we have 2 videos going on right now.
Okay.
Cool.
Just link on the notes and check.
All right. So as far as check-ins, I guess I'll start. So
Okay.
I'll give myself a 2.5. And it is 6 o'clock in the morning here. So that would be 1.5x dawn in the morning. And I think overall I'm doing okay. Definitely overwhelmed, lots going on. I'm glad we're doing this session. It is unfortunate we didn't really do any outreach. We didn't invite anybody except for ourselves. But it is what it is. So I've also been working a lot on the recruitment, which is good. And we also did a lot of other sessions, including our Earth and our Mercury and our Mars sessions. So we've certainly been making progress in improving our public side of things. So yeah, check. Samitope?
Okay, you're next.
Okay, I'm feeling about 4.5, maybe 5. It's like the PM guy in Nigeria. Generally,
hey, Albina?
everything is okay. But
Albina, you have quite a lot of background noise, so...
Oh, okay. Oh, it's the fan.
No, just Albina.
So we have been helping with new recruits. I've been trying to organize with our responsibility now. We're looking forward to Ceres Session, yes, like you mentioned, a lot of outreaches regarding the session. But nevertheless, we're looking forward to it. Really excited because I'm one of those few that have the privilege of attending the Ceres Session. And I'm glad I'm part of the team. And generally speaking, it's all good. It's all good. Check.
Okay, Gina, you want to go next?
All right. So I'm getting about 5. I haven't been doing much work because I was also fixing my life, one of my life priorities, which is about my school. I fixed my schedule with my school because we're starting a new term. And I fixed my schedule to fit in with the schedule I have with work. So it should be more, I can, you know, safely work as well as, focus as well on my studies as well. So I'm looking forward to this week. I'm also already planning on my schedule for this week, and hopefully everything would be according to plan with my schedule. But if not, I can always revise my schedule. Check.
Albina?
Yeah, I'm at 4.5. I'm excited to join the series session, but unfortunately, we didn't do much on the outreach. I've been helping new recruits on the onboarding stage 5, fixing the canopy scheduling, also taking them through the scheduling process, also on budget, and a bit on stage 6 onboarding. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go next. I'm about 4. It's 9 p.m. in my place, and I'm doing the Google updates for a week, and also what do you call this? Canopy training notes, and a lot more, and that's all.
Okay, so I think that's.
Jessica was here just a while ago. I think she got disconnected.
Did she send any messages on Skype or on Discord?
No.
Okay, we'll try to.
No.
She was on Hangout a while ago. I just saw.
Okay, we'll try to communicate with her on Skype or Discord
Okay.
Okay.
or any other way. Cool. All right, so let's go into all of our notes. Make sure the notes are linked. You guys link the notes. That's good. Attendance. How's the attendance? Com groups I think is done because we're doing it on Discord now. Strikes.
I have done it already on com groups and Discord.
Cool. Yeah, I checked that. It's good.
Okay, rankings. I'm gonna do the rankings.
What about the strikes?
Gonna be Jay, Albina, Tracy.
You're not using the new rankings?
No, that was just for the steering team.
Okay.
Tracy, Gino, Metope. Okay.
So who's gonna do the strikes?
Do we have strikes?
Definitely.
Yes.
I think
Mamoon got strikes.
for not responding.
Yeah, Mama gets a strike.
And who was responsible for responses and reminders and all that?
Me and Alvin.
Okay, so that would definitely be a bunch of strikes because we basically did nothing for that until like 6 hours ago. So from there,
we announced the responses on this on the Skype and on Discord.
6 hours ago?
No.
What?
No, only an hour or less than an hour before.
Okay, well, either way, whether it's 6 hours ago or whether it's an hour ago, it's just, it doesn't follow the policies, right? This is a session that happens once every 2 years. To be able to do responses And reminders, it needs to be a minimum of 24 hours in advance for any session, let alone a session that happens once every 2 years. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there should be announcements and responses weeks and weeks ahead of time, if not months. So it's just, it's not even close. I mean, you're not even close to following the policies at all.
Okay, we will track the policy.
Yeah, and then also I think Pressy had some strikes from last night as well. That you need just make sure all the policy tracking and strikes are in the Discord group, okay?
Okay.
Under the strikes and policy tracking. All right. So, and then Jessica also is not communicating, right? She didn't communicate about this.
I've sent her a message on Skype.
I know, but she didn't respond or communicate anywhere, did she? I mean, it seems like Jessica would also get a strike, right?
Or
because she didn't communicate at all. I mean,
Who? Jessica?
yeah,
Okay, she didn't. We just sent the Skype.
yeah. So she's not communicating for now. All right. So value tracking. Is anyone doing the value tracking?
I am.
We
And
should be
Pressy.
doing the value tracking spreadsheet. Although I don't think we have too much going on for the series.
I'm done with the value tracking.
Okay.
On the
So
I
let's
checked on
go.
the spreadsheet.
Oh.
Did you send on the Discord, Pressy?
The spreadsheet.
You said you are done with the
I did only for this for the what they call this, for the notes. I'm doing the value tracking on the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Value tracking. A moment. Open Mars. I'll just copy the Open Mars session. Summit value tracking.
Jessica said that her power just went off.
Okay. So so yeah, we can add her to the series group. Make sure that she can communicate there too
I'll
if
do
she's
that.
on Discord. But I think we're ready to go into our topics, right? In desired outcomes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the desired outcome would just be to have a better understanding of the Legion and series session, and maybe reconsider our schedule. Consider our schedule for the whole network. Relating to the series session. So I think that would look like just like, you know, questions about series session, proposal for network scheduling and structure. Any other topics, desired outcomes? I think that's all I have.
Not on my side.
What about budget?
Budget certifying.
Yes, you can. Did we certify the results in the last session? Checking on the positions and the budget. Especially those who don't have position yet, like Abdul. Which budgets are they?
I think Abdul's going to take on the second deputy position.
Okay.
So do you guys want to just do the budget? So just add the budget there too.
Yeah, we can have a review on the budget.
I'm gonna send the value tracking spreadsheet on the Discord. Spreadsheet.
Value tracking. What? Oh, okay.
Value tracking spreadsheet.
Perfect. All right. So, any other topics or desired outcomes?
It's 7:15.
Nothing from my side.
None.
Okay. Also, this is where we probably would want to be doing next steps and things like that, but I think we're not really good at that yet. But eventually, we would be looking at past notes and our next steps and be able to bring in priorities from previous meetings. All right. So let's just double check all these other things since we're on a high level. Evaluation prioritization. We could go through, well, we're not really doing series. We could see if we have a series plan. And evaluate it if we do. So let's give it a quick try and see if when the series plan was from. So if this was the last series session, 2020 was 2018, right? And it looks like the first series plan is from 2016. So I don't think we ever did a series plan for 2018. I think it's possible that that's because the second series plan actually was in alignment with Jupiter plan or something like that. So we ended up not doing it. Anyways, we'll go over this as well and make sure there's clarity on our plans and planning overall and how that all works. But we definitely have it, so that's good. All right, so we did our desired outcomes. Oh, are there any objections to our desired outcomes and topics?
None.
No.
Okay, so we just have these three. Just fine. Scheduling. When is our next session? I believe is new moon, right?
Yeah, 19th.
Which is.
Can I get the links to the video recording?
Yeah, it should be pretty easy. You just go to YouTube and you would search for planetary sessions and whatever Gino's.
Hold on, I'm gonna.
And then you would filter. You want to filter out for channels, so you can find the channel on planetary sessions and whatever Gino's channel is.
Okay.
That makes sense, Albina? So
where do I place the video link?
At the top.
At the top. At the top.
So the new moon session, let's just go here. Series.unity. Whoops. Series.unity.fun. So if we go to the website, we're in the series alignment. And in the schedule, we have our series affiliate. There's the water planning group coming up later. And then tomorrow, we've got the new moon session. It says it's on the 18th. Oh, but that's my time. So it's 19th.
Yeah, your time is 18th. It will be UTC 19th.
So it's 2 a.m. UTC.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that's the next global session, and we'll be doing the that would be a support team, support alliance session, which is good. Cool. So MBE membership board executive. So MBE is the name that we use for staffing. So that's good to know, remember. And then we have Plasmo. So typically, we'll go over this as well, but during the Legion, you would be doing Plasmo and also lots of MBE activities. So let's just note that down here. Wait, did we get? No, we did do that. All right. So is anyone helping with the notes? I'm just going to do this on my own. So I'm setting up our topics. So when we go over the Ceres session, I'm going to go over MBE and Plasmo for the accountability and staffing. Cool. All right. So we'll go over MBE and Plasmo and what's supposed to get done since we don't have anything. The proposals, we do have 1 or 2 proposals that we'll go over when we have the agenda. And I do want to make a proposal section. We already have our decisions, I think, in Discord. So then vibes, issues, contentious. Is there any vibes, issues, contentious that anyone wants to bring up?
None.
And I mean, is everything getting taken care of in terms of? Oh, they're already there. Cool. Proposals and decisions. So anytime we have a proposal, anytime we have a decision, we should be adding that to our Discord, so we can keep track of this. So there's. How's everything going with that thing with Mamoon? You guys get that all figured out?
Me?
Sure, or whoever.
Just let it be.
Probably.
Nothing will happen if I will, what do you call this? I will what do you call this? I will take it personally.
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but just make sure that you're scheduling with Mamoon and make sure there's a time. I mean, he might be on leave or sick. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with Mamoon, but last time we talked to him, he wasn't feeling so well. So
Yeah.
we should just give him time to rest. But then when he comes back, we should schedule with him and make sure that's all addressed and dealt with, and we can focus on the work at hand and the steering team and everything. So, all right. So that should be good. Other than that, I don't think there are any other issues or anything that's ongoing, so we're in pretty good shape. I mean, the only real issue is just like the recruitment and actually getting the work done, but that is an ongoing issue. So I think we're ready for our first topic. Any other questions about any of the setup for the session? And I don't think we have to split up or anything. There's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. All right. So this is all basically session support. Would be the project.
Session support.
Yeah, so we're gonna go over a Ceres session. What is the Ceres session? How does it fit in? What is the Legion? How does the what all connect to the plan and the other planetary sessions? So I mean, this is all part of session support. So as before, we talked about the policy that the membership is invited to all Mars and planetary sessions above Mars, right? Which would obviously include the Ceres session. And then we invite the public to all of it. So for the Ceres sessions at this point in time, I mean, this is, the Ceres represents the whole asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, and it happens once every 2 years. Jupiter happens once every 6 years. And that would just be more Legion and more, it would just be like an event, right? And then Mars is once every year. So there's nothing really in between those times. So it all represents very like long time scales overall. So we have this is actually currently scheduled as the primary Legion session. We haven't done anything for the Legion. So a couple of things that come into Legion is the concept of Legion. So the idea of a Legion is that, which we're Legion based, it's similar to like citizenship of a country where it's like everybody is automatically a citizen. Like you don't have to do anything to have rights as a citizen, right? But there's still exclusionary aspects of citizenship, whereas Legion goes beyond citizenship and the idea that everybody and everything is Legion. So it's specifically a plural as a singular in a single word, right? And so it goes like this. I am Legion, you are Legion, we are Legion, all are Legion. So let's write that down. I am Legion, you are Legion, we are Legion, all are Legion. So what that means is that basically, even if someone's not a member, even if they don't even know about us, we still include and represent them in their interests, including non-human interests, in the overall representation, decision making, and oversight of the network, including public accountability, right? So all cultures, all peoples, all movements, all communities, local regions on the planet like that, we want to make sure that we are mindful and considering the needs of all, not just ourselves. Does that sort of make sense? Or
Yeah.
yeah, and we want to create a place and a space for anybody and everybody who wants to get involved. You know, obviously, that at some point it's going to require us to do outreach and recruitment and collaboration. But the point is simply that most organizations and networks are based on their own membership and meeting their own needs, whereas our goals are much bigger than that. The Legion represents our commitment to the entire planetary community, and that everybody's automatically included. There is no application, right? No one has to apply to be a member. So what does that look like? The Legion is almost exclusively done through direct democracy and online voting and questionnaires, right? So when we talk about Plasma and putting together all of our policies to be reviewed and voted on, that's for like the board and the executives to like review all of our policies, right? Where we talk about the Legion is more of voting on our values, voting on our priorities, on our planning, on our goals, on our vision, mission, identity, right? So basically the idea is that anything and everything that like creates what we do in relationship to the public would be put into voting forms. All right, so we would be creating voting forms for the public to guide our work and direction. And then the most important part about it is that basically you're posting and putting these input forms all over the social media, websites, and anywhere people may be able to input, right? So the idea is that by everybody already being part of the Legion, you're just throwing it out there to the public. Everyone can vote on all these very high level important decisions about what our goals and what work we're doing and helping prioritize and plan. And then anyone who does input is automatically obviously part of the Legion, regardless of whether they're voting or not. But it's the point is that there's no entrance need to be involved in the highest level planning, organizing, goal setting, in identity keeping. Okay? Does that sort of make sense as far as the work that's supposed to be getting done? And technically speaking, we're supposed to be doing this for every planetary session, and we're supposed to be updating our plans and updating all of the work that we're doing for planetary sessions in general. But we don't really obviously do a very good job of that. So before I go into the plan, are there any questions about what that is? And then I'll show you some of the results of what that becomes.
It's 7:30.
No question.
Okay, no particular questions. Okay, that's good.
Let's stretch before we continue.
Okay.
Oh yeah, bottom of the hour, we're gonna do a quick
Let's
stretch.
do that stretch. We are on the bottom
Everyone
of an hour.
stand up and stretch. All right. So, anyways, you can see this is a lot of work that we need to do. But let's say we hire a session support manager or coordinator. This person their responsibility would be to almost exclusively be supporting the global planetary sessions and make sure that the work's getting done and the websites are being updated and that we're actually engaging the public in voting, prioritization, collaboration, in asynchronous time, and actually building our plans and planning, right? So I'm going to go through the plan, make sure it's clear how this all is supposed to work, so that ideally over the next couple years we are engaging the public in a much more profound way. So are there any questions about what I just went over in terms of what the Legion is, what we're supposed to be doing for and with the Legion, and how we interact with the public in relationship to social media, websites, multimedia, etc.? Any questions about that so far?
None on
I
my
have
side.
a question.
Answer.
Like, I'm just curious. Like, what does how does the Legion affect the FUN itself? Though.
Well, it's the highest level, right? So the Legion represents our public accountability. So the membership is basically, if you don't show up, you're not a member. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Right? So to be a member, you actually have to show up, engage, look at all the issues that are going on, appoint a board of directors, and actually participate as a member. So basically, we would consider membership as participatory democracy. Whereas being Legion, you don't have to show up. You just automatically get a vote, and you automatically get a direct say. So it's like direct democracy. Okay?
Okay.
So in the concept of the Legion is very dependent on the staffing and the MBE staffing, right? So when I talk about creating these voting forms and questionnaires, this is work done by MBE staffing, and the staff are to the Legion as one of the highest level staffs, right? And the staff to the Legion would be making sure everything that the Legion needed access to was accessible and answering questions. I mean, there's a whole part of it that goes into people relations and answering questions, and in some ways the MBE staffing relationship to the Legion is almost the direct public people relations, right? So we can even note that, like, direct public people relations. All right, does that sort of make sense? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Does.
so the primary and then the Legion also has rights to, for example, we would be, direct vote on highest level rankings and elections of staff, co-chairs, centaur, etc., etc. So the Legion gets to directly vote on the rankings if they so choose to. So every single voting form we ever make, including our normal elections and evaluations of all the workers and everything, would go out to everybody on social media on a monthly basis or quarterly basis whenever we're doing our budget updating and update our rankings for our quarterly recruitment, etc. But more importantly, especially when we get into the jurisdictional governance and the decision making on the bigger scale of social systems, the representation of voting every 2 years or even every 6 years for the Jupiter session, it would be in the relationship to voting for appointing different types of rotating presidential representation, as well as representation from all of the different locations. So that would be representative democracy. So there's three primary, like the democratic trilogy is the model that we're going for. So democratic trilogy is you have participatory democracy, which is obviously the membership, right? Membership, involvement, right? You have to basically be involved. You have to put in extensive time to be participatory. Then you have direct democracy, which is the Legion, right? And then you've got representative democracy, which is where you are looking at demographics. You can even represent non-humans, non-human representation, location, etc., etc. Okay, so representative democracy is all rankings, right? So this would all be done through rankings of who would be the top ranked person from each location, who is the centaur, who is the co-chairs, who are all of the different people representing the various non-human needs on the planet. So it just so the democratic trilogy, we want balance. Like direct democracy by itself can be disastrous because you can end up, there's no check and balance, right? It's just mob rule, right? So the democratic trilogy balances out all three types of democracies. Participatory democracy, which is the most engaging, right? The direct democracy, which is can turn into mob rule, and then you have representative democracy, which is more complicated, but also creates a buffer. Sometimes our representatives don't represent the needs of the actual people, right? So each one of these three different types of decision making have flaws and have pros and cons, right? So for example, participatory democracy, the con is obvious. You have to put so much time into participating. You basically either have to pay people to participate, like in our case, or people need to be willing to put in 5, 6, 10 hours of time over the course of weeks and years to actually make decisions and understand what's going on, right? So that's a huge deterrent, and only a very small fraction of the population ever has the time to participate. Direct democracy is great because everybody can do it. It's applicable to like 95% of the population. The problem is that people are going to be voting. It's click voting, right? You're just clicking and voting on things really quickly, and you don't necessarily know what the details are. So you can have mob rule, and there's plenty of problems in relationship to just mob rule and people randomly clicking and whatever happens from that. So you need check and balances on that, which is where you come into the participatory democracy. And then representative democracy can disassociate direct people representation from the representatives, especially when the representatives get into political parties and different types of political organizing units that then have priorities of their own separate from people they represent, right? So there are flaws with all three types of democracy systems, but if you balance them all out, and so in our model, the highest priority decisions are where they're approved by all three. So we want our participatory democracy, our direct democracy, and our representative democracy all to approve and come in agreement, in congruency and consensus between all three branches of the democratic trilogy. And that's how we make decisions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
we want approval from all three branches of the democratic trilogy. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but we also have the democratic quadrilogy or quadri or whatever it's called. But more importantly, we have what's called the multocracy. So the multocracy is what we were really talking about as far as like our structures. And the multocracy basically means a whole multitude of different democratic evolutionary steps to have much better decision making for our social systems. So a multocracy, but we start with the democratic trilogy. You start with our current democratic systems, a representative democracy, direct democracy, participatory democracy, and then we evolve that with the democratic quadrilogy and the multocracy, where you go into dozens, if not dozens and dozens and dozens of different democratic systems of decision making. Right, so when you start looking at the legion directly interlaces with the highest level decision makings and implementing and distributing our new decision making models themselves in relationship to building new infrastructures for what I would call just simple, human based and so social based and planetary decision making, right? But some people would call new governance structures, although I'd like to get away from the idea of government, right? I mean, the structure should be there to make decisions. If the decisions are done, then you don't need them anymore. You make the decision, then you move on. So, anyways, getting back to the planning, and obviously we have focused very, very little on our democratic evolution and our decision-making infrastructures. We'll get there when the time is right, but we do have entire implementable plans on new and collaborative decision-making structures, but that's almost pointless if we're not engaging the Legion. The Legion is where we want to be focusing all of our time and effort in engagement, in building that whole connection with the public, which we haven't done yet. So, and remember, we're just starting to go public. We haven't really even begun what we're going to be doing in the future. All right, so let's go back to our plan. So all of this right here, voting on our values, our priorities, our planning, especially our goals, all of this, our priorities, right? This is the focal point of the voting and the input. And I'm not going to go into detail, but let's at least cover some of the basics. So here's our last series plan from, well, no, this is from 2016. So this is 2 series plans ago. All right, and so we aren't doing well on our planning in general, but this gives us an idea. So our plan is, we try to keep it simple. We also have the Jupiter and the Saturn plan. The most recent plan is our Saturn plan. So it's good to note that. So let's go ahead and link this in the notes. So we link the 2016 series plan, and then we also want to link the Saturn plan, if someone could do that. Saturn plan. I think it's also linked on our Open Series website here.
I will find the Saturn plan.
I think it's under here under initiatives. The series plan, link to Saturn plan. Here it is.
Saturn plan.
So I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this and put it in the notes since it's all applicable. All right, so link to Saturn plan came through. Perfect. All right, so the Saturn plan is the most up-to-date plan. The Saturn only happens once every 15 years until 2032. So the Saturn plan keeps us focused and active from 2018 to 2032. Okay, so in 2032 will be the next Saturn session. And pretty much that's one of the reasons why we don't do a lot of plans is simply because we already have the Saturn plan, and the Saturn plan keeps us focused for a long time, because 2032 is a long time from now. But within that time frame, we'll be doing another set of Jupiter plans, and then ideally we would have a Ceres plan every 2 years. So it's like we have one plan that lasts from 2018 to 2032, which is like 15, 16 years. And then we would have our 6-year plans and our 2-year plans to help us evolve and change as we're getting towards the redoing our Saturn plan. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's pretty much
It's
the
7:45.
concept, but the overall idea of the plans are all pretty similar. The focal point of the time frame changes, but the actual really the function of the plan and how it is evolved doesn't really change, right? So you basically, if you go into here, it's basically all about prioritizing forms. So an example of a prioritization form that we were creating is just what are all of our priorities. I think this one we did for Unity Week. Okay. Oh yeah. So different types of priorities: sustainability, unity, spirituality, anti-corruption, life support, evaluation, and then there's all these other activities, programs. We could pretty much put anything in them. And actually, we do have spreadsheets with hundreds of possible priorities that we can prioritize. And then typically we want to help guide those into like the top 10, 20, 50, or whatever that we would have the public vote on. But anyways, the public can always vote on everything if they choose to. So that's that. So you have the voting forms that basically go into our overall priorities, and that's what we call the community elections. So I don't know if our community elections. No, it doesn't look like our website's working. And I also use the Unity elections. It looks like our Unity elections is working. All right, so for the Unity elections, you basically have a whole bunch of different ways to vote, and you have different levels of getting the initial ideas in there, and then you work your way up into the other levels of the planning. Okay, so let me note that down here. Oops. So we call it the Unity elections, or community elections is basically, the name for the Legion voting forms and processes to allow the public to vote on all of the priorities and create the ranking of all the ideas in votes. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it makes sense.
Right. So basically, when we talk about elections, we're talking about doing elections for people eventually once we get our decision-making models set up in representation, etc. But we're also talking about ideas. So with our evolved models of democracy, we're also talking about ideocracy in the multocracy, where it's like, let's just list all the ideas, all the goals, all the priorities, and then everyone's voting on them to prioritize them to end up with a list of priorities. Okay, so what does that look like in the end when you get into the Ceres plan or into the actual planning of the Saturn plan? You basically end up with the elections. This was the round 2 elections, where basically we got all the primary movements. So you have the peace movement, the real democracy movement, the unity movement, feminism, women's rights movement, cannabis movement, cooperatives, politics, Black Lives Matter, umbrella truth movement, basic life necessities, and you go on and on and on. So you take all the movements across the world with the primary focal point of evolving humanity, involving our society, and then you're prioritizing them. There's the water movement. There is the sustainability. So you have all these different movements that are happening throughout the world, and it's all about prioritizing them and with the input from the public so that we can think about what the top basically you're boiling it down to a single priority. From there, you have a couple subsections. You basically have your overall top network priorities. You have your Unity network priorities. You have the community Unity network, and then you have your internal priorities. Okay. So are there any questions on the prioritization and what that looks like? I mean, we can prioritize everything, but the main things we're prioritizing are our entire movements, right? So what do we prioritize? We prioritize movements, we prioritize symbols. So how do we prioritize symbols? We prioritize symbols with the Unity flag. It's net. Unityflag.net. So for the Unity flag, you can do the flag symbol and you can actually vote on each of the different symbols. So we can prioritize the various symbols that represent the movements and the colors, right? We can also prioritize the colors. So symbols and colors, that goes into our flags and our representative symbology of the work that we do. Then you have all of our priorities, goals, etc., etc. So we want to prioritize basically everything. So what does that look like? So if we go back to here, so you have our overall priorities of our movements and our projects. You have our visions and goals. So we're prioritizing our visions and goals, having clarity on that. We go over our asset resources, make sure it's clear and public. So this is kind of where we would put all of our budgetary information for our plans, and making sure all of our updated quarterly budgeting and annual budgeting is accessible to the public to review. And then this is where all the projects and ideas. So this is the important is. So we want to do projects and ideas. So anyone can input any project. Anyone can input any idea. And then you basically line up all the different points of what the different priorities would be. And you can do it both based on the number of points that people give and then also the percentage approval. So there's at least two ways of how you actually rank. And let's see what this says. Oh yeah, that's the overall priorities. Yeah, cool. So this is where you would actually end up with your rankings of your actual projects and goals and ideas. Does that make sense?
Yes, so it will depend with the voting, right?
Yeah. And so the voting, of course, goes out to everybody in the public at a vote on all the different ideas, all the different movements, the symbols, the everything, right? And then it boils down into, okay, what is the public telling us? So we are publicly accountable as a team. Our entire team, once we basically can function, do our budgeting, do our recruitment, actually function. Once we're functional, the point of our team and the work that we do as the global core team is to support the needs of the public. And the way that we find out what the public wants to hold us accountable to the needs of the public is we engage the public. We ask them, what are all the priorities? What are all the ideas? What are all the projects that everyone wants to work on? And this is relating to Unity Week and all the different conferences that are coming up and just connecting to all the different movements and activities going on. We just document everything that's happening, put it into the voting forms, send it all out to the public, and then have everyone basically vote on it to get mass input on what are the priorities. I mean, as few as 100 people voting, even less than 100 people would be enough to get a pretty good representation. But even if you got a few hundred people or 1,000 people, you would basically get a very direct understanding of the needs of the entire population, at least in a specific language, right? So this is obviously all in English, so it isn't necessarily representative of all cultures and all languages across the world. but it would at least be representative of whatever language or culture that you are targeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's basically all we can ever really do. It's like once we start working with different cultures and different languages, which we will be doing, that's when you get into just there will be a separate plan and separate prioritization for each culture, and then you're cross-pollinating between the cultures and between the plan. So you'd have a whole budget to support each plan for each culture and each language, and then from there you would have cross-pollination between the plans and between the cultures. All right, so again, if you don't engage the people and the legion and the public, it's very difficult to actually do the planning and actually prioritize all of our goals, ideas. But everything's set up already. I mean, we've done this before in practice rounds. So the whole model is there. It's everything set up. Also, you can do your timeline for the next 2 years. If the Mars session will be once a year, so you're looking at all of the future priorities in relationship to your event timelines for the year, so that you're communicating to the public about what's happening over the next year and making a plan for how you're going to implement the different sessions and the different events and everything and what's coming up. And then you have all your plans. Like you could be doing plans for every planetary session can have its own plan, and each plan is going to be very different in terms of what it's focusing on, because the Ceres session would be looking at 2 years, right? Whereas if you did like a Mercury, it would only be the 1.5 month goals. So our 1.5 month goals is kind of the same idea, except it's a more individualized focus on our own planning versus the planning of the whole network and the goals and the world, right? So, and then any and all input from, we pretty much take any and all input from, brainstorm and just make sure it's all listed, or we can link more information of other ideas that don't make it into the top priorities, so that anyone inputs is still included in the planning process. So that's what we should be doing. And obviously we're not doing it, but I want to make sure we went over the idea of the Legion, the idea of the planning, what it's supposed to look like if we did it correctly. And the role and the person who's supposed to be doing all this would be whoever we hire for the session support for the planetary sessions. That would be their primary role, is helping support all of these processes, as well as the MBE staff to the Legion, which we don't really have right now, but we can eventually figure out how to budget and work that into our whole system. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so last chances for any questions on the overall goals of the Ceres session, the Legion, the plan, and how it relates to all the rest of the planetary sessions. And then, of course, the plasma, we would have an accountability report to the public and to the Legion. So that's something we didn't do. That would also be policy tracking. So every single planetary session, there is a some type of plasma report, and some type of staffing report, especially when you're talking about Mars and above. So basically, once you get Mars, obviously Earth, Mars, Ceres, Jupiter, Saturn, there's just going to be, it's important to be having public accountability about what's going on. So for example, our accountability report this time around would probably say, like, we're not doing any of the work for engaging the Legion and making sure there's public accountability and public prioritization going on, which is against our policies, right? But we also don't have the capacity or the functional team to actually do the work, and we haven't been successful in any of our recruitment and getting volunteers and or equity only workers. So we are just doing our best with what we have, right? So that would be the first paragraph of an accountability report, and then there might be a second paragraph, and then that's it. So it doesn't need to be a lot, especially when you're dealing with the Legion. People don't have time to read multi-page reports. Maybe for the board of directors, you could send the board of directors a multi-page report. But when you're talking about the Legion, you would basically, it's like a paragraph. It's almost like a tweet. And then if they want to read the board accountability report, they can't. But the Legion would just basically be like a simple update on the accountability and or the staffing and how they can vote in the elections, and that's it. Okay.
Okay.
That's the top of the hour. Do you guys want to take a 3 to 5 minute break?
Yeah, let's take a 5 minute break. Let's this is your last chance for asking any questions here on the whole future plan for the engaging the public.
Jay, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking that is there any organization that is trying to do what we're doing?
No.
Oh, okay. So we're just unique in the sense that this is a novel kind of arrangement that no other person is doing. Because I was thinking if there was a person that was doing it, we could actually. I really wanted to see how far they've gone and how they're trying to do the things that we're doing so that we can actually have a clear idea and picture. Because the way you're saying it now, it still sounds very novel to me, and that's why I asked the question I asked.
Yeah, but the good news is that there's a lot of organizations and groups out there and even apps that do similar things, right? Whether you're talking about something like Reddit, which ranks all of the news stories or all the different types of stories, or even if you just look at social media overall, um, when you just look at the whole overarching process of social media, it's all about likes and links and following and all that. And you can see in all of that data, if you pull out the big data of social media, it's really a voting system. It's the public voting on their priorities, and you can actually see how many people have liked a certain topic or page on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or followed it on Twitter, and you can say, okay, sustainability has this many followers and likes. Black Lives Matter has this many followers and likes. So you can actually get data from the public already, because everyone's already basically voted. It's a matter of pulling out all the information and prioritizing it in a way that actually is functional based on rankings, right? Because social media, it doesn't actually try to organize the needs of the people and the populations and what they're inputting, right? Instead, social media tries to make money off of algorithms, right? So, but if we tried to work with existing data systems of the whole planetary communication models, you could actually pull out very relevant data information based on just existing processes of engaging the public. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does.
Yeah. So it's all there. It all exists. Like all the data for what the needs are of the public and the priorities are all there. It's just a matter of putting it in a model that's actually usable for decision makers and organizations that are trying to support the public's needs. Yeah. It's easier said than done, but there's another example would be one of the biggest global voting drives that was done was for the seven wonders of the world, like the new seven wonders of the world, and everyone was able to vote on that across the whole world. So that would be an example of prioritization in relationship to the public. So there are organizations that do it. They just do it not necessarily based on what our mission is. Our vision is uniting all people in social movements. So when we're talking about entire social movements and prioritizing social movements, it's a slightly different focus. All right, so let's go ahead and take a break for 5 minutes, and when we come back, we'll go over our this proposal for changing our structure, and then I think we'll go to the budget, and then we're done.
Okay.
So we should be
Okay,
done.
we are on the top of an hour. We can do our break. 3 to 5 minutes break.
Cool.
It's been 5 minutes. Is everyone back?
Yeah, let's go ahead and keep going here. So the proposal, we'll go through the proposal and then I'll go through all the details. So the proposal will be to change the schedule of the Legion to Jupiter. So currently the schedule is Ceres, and the idea would the Ceres become the membership and the Jupiter would be the Legion. So that would free up time and slow things down at the current level of the month to month level. And then would also create a 6-year frequency, which closer represents timeframes of presidential voting and national elections that happen and people are used to. So just because if the Legion happened every 6 years instead of every 2 years, we still engage the Legion during the Ceres session, during the Mars session, the Earth session. I mean, there's nothing. It's not like you don't engage them and do plans for all of the other planetary sessions. But the idea is that for the overall structure, we're getting kind of busy. So our existing model here is that we have the Ceres session is our Legion, the Mars their membership, the Earth is the Super Council, the Venus is the executive team, seasonal sessions are the management team. And then this is where everything kind of gets condensed. You have our Mercury sessions, the core team. Full new moons, we have our support team. Quarter moons, we have our steering team. And then we have all of our new structured sessions in relationship to our organizational chart. So when I was looking at the org chart, is sort of when I got a clearer understanding of how kind of packed in we are with the work, the day-to-day, week-to-week work that needs to get done. And it can kind of get overwhelmed trying to oversee our steering team twice a month and then dealing with all the other sessions that are supposed to be happening, including our plasma and our staffing to be supporting all the decision making, and then also our session support. So I think overall it's like as we expand and actually try to do all of the work, I think in my perception it seems like there's too much to do and too short of a time frame. So in relationship to creating this type of open modeled structural organizational system where everything is basically accountable to everything else and making, all the accountability to all the highest levels of the decision making and the public accountability and the staffing and oversight of making sure all of the teams are functional. The idea is to open up our structure a little bit more. So the Jupiter would become the Legion, the Ceres would be the membership, the Mars would be the council and board meeting, the Earth would be the executive meeting, Venus management, and then the core team would only happen quarterly. So we'd be doing quarterly goals and building a quarterly core team, like our global core team would happen once a quarter, 4 times a year, and then from that it would break up into all of the sub teams. You would have all of and then the Mercury session might be more of like the support teams, not only for the individuals but also supporting the organizations, including each individual quadrant. So the quadrants would become their own self-sustaining organizations themselves and have their own budgets, and we could support them during the Mercury session. And then each of those quadrants can then support individuals and all the other teams. And then I was thinking the full moon, new moon would then become the steering team, and the quarter moons. Well, I mean, basically what I was thinking about doing is doing a double proposal. So the other proposal would be to switch the structure. So the proposal would be to switch back to the steering team being above the life support. So the new full moons would stay at life support, and the support team would go to full new moons. So you would just switch those two. And then quarter moons could be co-chair activity or other. It would kind of open up the quarter moons to be a little bit more flexible and open for whatever we want to add there. So the second proposal is basically to switch the support team. We would keep on new and full moons, and then the steering team would be the Mercury session. And the idea of if the steering team was the Mercury session, that would be the only like primary decision making body that would be part of the lunar session. So currently the steering team happens on quarter moons, but the steering team is technically a decision making body, right? It represents all of the quadrants, and it as we build our global structure, and each quadrant has its own membership and its own budget and its own structure of its own coordination and organizing per quadrant. The steering team will become more and more important in relationship to decision making and oversight for the whole network. And so the steering team happening during during a planetary session would mean that all of the planetary sessions would then basically become decision-making bodies, right? They would be, high level organizing levels, as opposed to currently we have the steering team in the quarter moon. So again, that would slow everything down. It would mean that, okay, we only have to do our steering team decision makings, reviewing all of the policies and policy tracking, the plasma accountability, all of that would only happen once every 1.5 months instead of once every 2 weeks. And that also would slow down the staffing, and it would just give us more time and space to do all the work that we're not able to do, right? So basically all of the lunar sessions would be mainly focused on work as opposed to planning, decision making, coordination, etc. Was there a question, Pressy, or anyone, or
Support team or the life support?
yeah?
Or the session support? Life support or session support?
This is the support team, is the life support. The support alliance. And that's one of the sessions that I'm inviting more and more people to. That's where we do life support for the public. Anyone can come. Anyone organizational support. Anyone wants help with the organization. Any type of support for helping people. Also organizational support for our quadrants. As we start building our quadrants, we could talk about how to support the quadrants during that time. But the idea is that the new and full moons are very public and easily representable, whereas Mercury session, no one really understands the Mercury session, so it would make sense for our steering team to be in the Mercury sessions. And also, if we pull up our chart, if we pull up our chart, right now the support team is the full moons, new moons, and the quarter team is steering team. So you would bring up the steering team, and then the support team and life support would become more of like the work that we do to support the network, right? So it becomes more equal to like the session support team or the ORC team, which makes more sense, right? So the steering team is definitely, in my eyes, a higher level than the support team, because the support team really doesn't do decision making, and it doesn't really need accountability. It's more of like a direct public service. It's more of a program, right? It's our support and our life support program. So it should be more in alignment with all of our other programs and activities, which is at this level that the steering team oversees. So that's the proposal, is basically, going for this new structure that would, for me, it would slow everything down a little bit and make it a little bit more manageable, because right now we're taking on more, we're expanding, we're actually trying to get work done by hiring more people. Our budget is extremely in the red. because of it. But when you look at where we are right now, I mean, it could be months from now before we train and get all of the new workers set up. But then at that point, we have to be able to get the work done. And so if we're too busy with all of the sessions, I feel like we're not doing ourselves any service, right? We need to step it back and slow down a little bit and try to get the work focused done and get the work completed. So until we're getting the work done, we really don't know where we're going to end up. If we decide to go with this new structure and slow things down a little bit, we can always change it back at any time we want to. So we could always go back to Ceres Session being the Legion. Well, overall, I mean, I think it looks good. I mean, remember we've been talking about how it's been hard to schedule, and we've been trying to schedule everything and create new scheduling, natural time sessions for global scheduling. And so part of that is just like it's just too much happening all in not enough time. And so if we do this, it'll free up some time and make it easier to schedule and make it easier to ideally address all of our priorities. Not a huge amount, but I feel like just like that little tiny bit might be the difference between us getting fully functional and really actually achieving all of our goals and getting the work done, and us, just always being one step behind. So again, this would slow us down considerably. I mean, if you think about the steering team currently, the steering team happens once every 2 weeks, right? And this would slow it down to, instead of being once every 2 weeks, it'd be once every month and a half. So that would be 3 times slower for our steering team. So it would slow everything down by 3 times less often. So it would give us, for every time we're doing all of our status updates. So when you look at all the teams and all the work they're doing, instead of having to do status updates every 2 weeks, which we're just not even close to doing, there would have to be a status update to the steering team once every month and a half.
Yeah.
Right? So you'd have every single group or all of our project teams. Let's take another look here. So you'd have like the PINDA team, the ORC, the Outreach and Recruitment Commission, our session support team, our sponsorship oversight team, the finances, accounting, governance compliance, asset management. So all of those teams, and you'd have the life support program. All of those teams would be building reports, creating their status updates, getting it all much more organized, and then presenting it and having it more official. Instead of once every 2 weeks, it would be once per month and a half into the steering team. And so it would actually give the time necessary to really get the work done, to be having status updates. So instead of doing our 1.5 month goals, instead of being individual, would be about each of our work teams, and then making sure that the work is getting done within each team every 1.5 months, and that the actual work is the focus on the Mercury sessions, and that you're presenting the status updates, how much work was done at the Mercury sessions, and then the quarter moons are the quarterly sessions, which would be the seasonal sessions, where you would really focus on the individuals and getting all of your goals for the entire network for the quarter, but that the Mercury sessions would be focused on the work and presenting the status updates to the steering team, making decisions over the distribution of task responsibilities, budgets, etc., etc. So in many ways, our budgetary cycle would go more into a 1.5 month budget instead of a monthly budget. So that's actually something we should note here. Note, this may mean that our budgets go towards a 1.5 month budget as opposed to monthly budget. So that would mean that we would probably be passing and approving 1 point, let's just say quarterly budgets. Quarterly budgets would be more important than monthly budgets. And then we would just task the AGC to oversee the monthly HR budgets with the HR board. So we would still have monthly budgets because we'd still be doing monthly payroll. I mean, people don't want to get paid every month and a half, so all of our budgets would still be monthly. But that AGC would be overseeing the monthly budget process instead of the steering team, and then the HR board and the actual budget for the month to month would be pretty flexible, whereas the quarterly budget would be the focal point for the oversight of the steering team, making sure the quarterly budget, which we break up into two halves, right? So every 1.5 months you would be reviewing the budget, and then the second one, I guess you could break it up into like a Philion versus Perilion, where at the Perilion you would do the primary quarterly budget. So the Mercury Perilion would be the primary quarterly budget. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But Jay, I have a slight opinion. I'm thinking that 1.5 would be too long. Going from what we have 2 weeks to 1.5, I'm thinking maybe we could have just made it in 4 weeks. Then gradually we move to 1.5 instead of just going from what we have now to 1.5. Because we have not really been able to get in the groove and organize ourselves with 2 weeks, and we go to 1.5, then the gap will be too much, and we might have the tendency to want to relax and discover that, when it's almost 1.5, we now start rushing to put those things together and get organized. But if we go from 2 weeks to maybe a month, then maybe 1.5, then it gives us enough time to really get in the groove and arrange ourselves while making that step-by-step progress. 1.5 will just be too long, and we might just lose focus, and towards the 1.5 we begin to gather ourselves together. That's my thinking.
Okay, so that would be the first proposal. So let's just go over the options. So option 1 would be to keep structure the same, right? Option 2 is to change the schedule where the Legion is at Jupiter, and then option 3 is to make the Legion Jupiter, but also switch the steering team and the life support. Okay, does that make sense?
A question, Jay, on the budget.
Well, let's just make sure the options are clear. So for the options, okay. Option number 2 would be what Temetope just talked about, which would make it monthly. So actually it would be twice a week still, right? So new moon, full moons for the steering team, it would be twice a week still. But we could always evolve that and change it, later. But anyway, just to answer the question, for me, the focal point, I think the steering team is functional. We have a functional steering team. If we build our staffing team and our plasma team, the steering team will become even more functional. And we also, our global core team is reasonably functional. So for me, I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is the Canopy team, the AGC team, our session support team, the ORC team. Those are the teams that we need to get the work done. Like, that's where the work needs to get done, and that's where the focus needs to be. And so the idea is that I don't think by having the steering team meet every 1.5 months, are we really losing anything? Because we're not really doing the status updates. We're not every 2 weeks anyways. We're not really doing much during those steering teams every 2 weeks. So the idea would be to focus those 2 weeks on the actual work, right? So we're still going to be busy. We're still going to be meeting every single day, if not multiple times a week, on everything. So the only question is like in terms of the every week, every 2 weeks, the idea is that instead of meeting as a steering team to be looking at the status updates that we're not even doing, we be focusing and meeting as the session support team and the AGC team and the staffing team and the plasma team and the canopy team, and really getting focused on getting the work completed, right? And actually focusing on work on a regular week to week, month to month basis. And then the steering team and the oversight can happen every 1.5 months. I think it would be perfectly fine. But anyways, I'm open to all three options. We can keep everything the same, which would be option 1. Option 2 would be to change the Legion to Jupiter, but this would keep steering team every 2 weeks for new/full moons. And then option 3 is to switch back the steering team being above the life support, where the steering team is every 1.5 months. Budget question, Albina?
About if we change the budget to 1.5 months, are we also going to change the policies existing on the budget changes and everything?
No, I mean, I don't think it really affects the budget. Would still be monthly. It's just that the steering team decision making on the budget would be quarterly. So the steering team would no longer take a direct oversight role in the monthly budget. Instead, the monthly budget would be done almost exclusively by the AGC team. So the AGC team's meeting twice a month. It can oversee the budget process and approve the monthly budget every month.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And we could even put the AGC team into the quarter moons. So if we decided to do this, we could move AGC to quarter moons if we wanted to, and then the AGC team could actually do the monthly budget work. Could take over.
My question is, the quarterly budget is going to be overseen by the steering team?
Can you say that again, Pressy? I couldn't quite hear you.
The quarterly budget should be overseeing with the steering team?
Well, yeah, the steering team already does the quarterly budget and monthly budget currently.
Okay, so if the proposal approved that the steering team will be moved on the Mercury session or
that's
every
option
1.5?
3. So option number 3 would be moving the steering team to the Mercury session, right, every 1.5 months, and then the life support program and all of the support alliance and support team would happen on the new and full moons, which is where it currently happens already. So the reason why we, like before, the steering team used to be on new and full moons, but we moved the steering team from the quarter moon to the full and new moons because the full new moons were better for more of like a public outreach, right? So in terms of public outreach, we wanted to invite the public to our life support sessions for full and new moons. So in this case, the life support would move to Mercury sessions. And it's not as easy to invite the public to Mercury sessions because no one understands what a Mercury session is. So the idea would be to switch it back to the way that it originally was, where the life support is below the steering team, which would be full and new moons. So we would keep the life support in the full and new moon session because that's the one that the public is most engaged and understands. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I got it.
Cool.
Thank you.
So any other questions on the 3 options? Okay, so we're gonna go into voting mode. Again, we can just keep everything the same, or we can change the schedule, slow it down a little bit, go to Jupiter, or we can change the schedule a little bit more and organize the steering team and the ACG, AGC, etc., etc. So I myself am definitely okay with all 3 options, but I'm gonna prioritize option 3 and then option 2 and then option 1. So that's gonna be my priorities. Who wants to vote next? Pressy, looks like you're voting.
Okay, I vote yes. 7 on keep the structure the same. I voted 8 on the proposal number 2. And
Gino, Tamitope, Albina, you guys want to vote?
Yes, I'm doing.
For option 1, I voted 9. Yes, 9. Option 2,
Okay, I did vote. I voted on option 1, 8. Then option 2, 6.5. Then option 3, vote 8.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the most significant change of all would be to the Legion. I mean, the Legion would be focused once every 6 years instead of once every 2 years. So, again, that's also a 3 times reduction. 2 years to 6 years, just the same as we're talking about the steering team going from every 2 weeks to every 6 weeks. So it's very similar in the concept as far as like what would be happening, and eventually we would obviously want everyone to be able to vote on this and make a voting form, etc. But anyways, so let's did anyone not say their vote yet? Are you ready to just average
I'll
them up?
just hold on. I'm doing the average.
All right, I'm gonna average option 3.
Okay, I'm averaging option 2.
it's 9.
I like the option 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7.5.
Okay, so it looks to me like we are prioritizing keeping it the same, but I think this was a really good exercise in rethinking our structure. I think it also is coming up in relationship to, actually putting together. Wait, what happened to the? Did someone delete the actual diagram? Looks like someone deleted the diagram.
Which one?
Maybe it was me. The diagram of our structure. I'm gonna put it back in again.
Oh.
There it is. All right. So as far as our organizational chart goes, like I think part of this coming into the organizational chart, actually seeing it all together and looking at all the times and everything, it was just overwhelming. So, this is a big decision because it does affect the whole structure of the network and the decision making that happens. So, we can think about it for a couple more weeks and then maybe reconsider and just keep considering. I mean, there's no hurry on this, right? So yeah, and I don't think we need to vote on option 1 again because it's already exists. We don't need to vote on it. It's not changing anything. Are there any other questions about this? Yeah, and we do want to create a bunch of voting forms, or not a bunch of them, but a few voting forms that basically allow anybody in the public or anyone in the organization to be involved in the decision making on the scheduling for the entire network, including questions like, do we want to schedule on natural time and planetary cycles, or do you think we should switch to going to a Gregorian calendar, for our scheduling? So the idea is that there is a decision made that we choose to structure ourselves around natural time cycles, obviously I think it's one of the foundations to our entire vision and principles as a founder, right? But it's still a decision that's made at some point that we want people to be able to reinforce. So all of our scheduling should be on voting forms, and everyone should have an opportunity to vote on it at some point. But we'll worry about that in the future, and that would actually be part of MBE staffing. So Gino, eventually, that would be a priority for MBE.
Okay.
All right, sweet. So I think that's it for this topic. Any other comments, questions, concerns, anything else for the topic? Coolio. And the last thing I'll say about the organizational chart is it's coming together pretty cool. I think it's pretty good. I think it shows the importance of Plasmo and staffing, because I think if people didn't understand how Plasmo and staffing related, but it really, you could turn this entire org chart on its side, where Plasmo would almost be the top of the entire organization, because it holds everything accountable, right? And make sure there's accountability, and then all of the other, like the Legion, the membership, the board, the executive team, management, all of those are really equal to each other. They just have a distribution of power and related to what types of decisions are made at what times. And then the staffing team is supporting all of those decision-making bodies, because it's really not a hierarchical structure. It's more of a, creating a distribution of power structures and having different types of decisions made from different people at different times. And then the last part is like the emergency decision making, which is part of the chair and the centaur roles, and then the quadrant supervisors and deputy and senior manager roles. This is where we have the rotating CEO and president role that would rotate throughout the day. And so once we get our quadrant supervisors set up, and this would all be part of level 4. So we want to re-engage everybody into level 4 and get our quadrant supervisors and eventually our octant managers, senior managers. And then this would be where the rotating, every single quadrant, it would rotate to a different CEO and or president. But in the meantime, the chair of the center, which is myself, just kind of default takes on the CEO and presidential role. But as soon as we get level 4 set up for everybody and we build our quadrant supervisors and eventually get to octant senior managers, we'll be able to have a rotating position on oversight of emergency powers. Okay?
Okay.
And then we can add that time frames into our structures. All right, any last questions on our structure, organizational chart, meetings, and then we're going to go on to the budget, and then that'll be our last topic. All right, budget.
None on my side.
None yet.
All right, let's go on to the budget.
I'm gonna link the next month's budget.
Okay.
So what's the focus on the budget?
About the position, so are we approving everyone in the budget? Based on the position they are holding.
The entire budget is based on the rankings from the elections, the interviews, and the recruitment round. So what is your question? Your question is, are we approving everybody? Well, we're approving whoever gets in the budget based on the rankings. But again, the rankings for each team is slightly different. For example, the activity team has different rankings based on availability for daytime hours in the Americas, and then you have Canopy, which is based on commitment and availability to do canopy work. So each team has a slightly different ranking based on, for example, whoever's ranked highest. Who's ranked highest? Albina, right? And
based
myself?
on quadrant ranking
or
ranking.
It was Ling Sung, right? So Ling Sung was ranked number 2, right?
Yeah.
On our previous ranking.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to be removing Ling Sung, so we'll have a new number 2 ranking. But the point is that Ling Sung could have taken any position he wanted in the entire organization, the entire network, right? So he could have taken any position. He chose not to, but the point is that by ranking highest, you have first choice of the position, right?
Yeah.
But then if nobody takes a position, basically anybody we can recruit can, for example, we need an AGC coordinator. Also, we can't finish the recruitment round until we have an AGC coordinator. Probably we need a couple other positions filled as well. So I mean, I just feel like we're not ready to finish. I'm really pleased about Hanal, coming in. Hanel coming in to do the activity, so hopefully she will help out with the deputy position. But there's still plenty of positions we have not filled yet, and we just need to get the work done. So I think that we need to continue the recruitment round until we at least have the AGC position filled. Yeah. So
you said that is also a deputy, chief deputy Abdul.
Abdul would be the second. So we're using the term primary and secondary deputy. So Abdul's interested in the secondary deputy position.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's primary on there. Yeah. So there's the chair, the centaur, the primary deputy, the secondary deputy, and then you have the quadrant supervisors that will take over for once we get our quadrants set up, and then the octant supervisors will take octant senior managers will take over once we get the octant senior managers set up. But the priority in relationship to the budget in the recruitment round should be the recruitment round and focusing on, all of the work that needs to get done for recruitment that we're just not doing. And Teme Tope, you're supposed to be stepping up in a major way on recruitment. I don't think you've really stepped up and done much of anything yet. And you're also not prioritizing it, so that's not good. And we need to make sure we have an outreach and recruitment coordinator who wants to really move and step up immediately with recruitment. We don't really have any time to waste on that.
Okay, I'll schedule. I'll prioritize it.
Yeah, so every single main session, you should be prioritizing recruitment. You should be making sure we're planning and organizing for the ORC meetings, and that you are scheduling for training and wanting to take on all of the work, so that ideally would be with me to take on all of the work that needs to get done for the recruitment. So you should know all the priorities that need to get done, when it needs to get done by, and make sure that it is all being assigned and knowing exactly who's doing it and by when.
Okay, I would schedule it because I just scheduled with Alvina to get the priorities right, and that I have done. So now I have to schedule with you to see which of the responsibilities we'll start working on right away.
Anything on the budget?
On my side.
None for me either.
Any more questions?
We lost JR. We lost one of his account.
I'm here. What's the question? Was there another question?
Okay. No question from my side. I just wanted to know how we are approving the budget under the positions.
So my understanding is that we already approved the budget, right?
Yeah, yes, we did.
So there's going to be the canopy budget. So there's a separate canopy budget that we were supposed to approve. I think that's going to go to the, AGC or steering team or whatever can look at the canopy budget. So I thought that someone was supposed to be tasked to or had the responsibility of updating the canopy budget. And then there's also the activity budget. The activity budget might look like, I don't know, $500 for Hanel, and then $300 for Abdul.
Okay.
Depending on how it's set up. So I don't have that one yet because it's just not done, right? Because we haven't finalized. But anyway, so once we finalize the activity budget, then we will be able to pass and approve that separately. And then the canopy budget can also be approved and passed separately. And then we already have the existing monthly budget, and then it's just a matter of the recruitment round and updating the budget based on the recruitment round rankings and having everything done correctly. Does that make sense or not?
Yes.
But it's definitely good to have the budget updated for sure. But more important than the budget being updated just randomly based on just whoever is doing anything. And I also want to remind you guys that the budget is always part of the main buddy team budget. Like I never see the main buddy team budgets anymore, and those are extremely important. So I'm not sure why we're not doing the main buddy team budgets, but there should be a main buddy team budgets and you have the individual budgets. So you're supposed to do both. So I'm not sure. Yeah, exactly. So, but just copy and paste it into the notes as well and into the voting because it's just an important part of the budget.
Okay.
So in the relationship of the work that needs to get done, I mean, right now we've activated basically everybody. And what we need to do is focus on the recruitment work, because I mean the budget is one thing, and it's great to have the budget updated to a certain degree, but it's like without doing the work and the actual recruitment, it's like the budget's kind of meaningless because if we don't have any rankings to decide who it gets paid for what, there's just not really it's not really applicable. And then also the other work that needs to get done is overseeing like the 5-hour time budget. If people are in the time budget, then they need to be reviewing and checking in every 5 hours or 5 to 10 hours. And, someone needs to be doing that. If no one's doing that, then, and no one's checking in, we should be policy tracking all the time for that and giving out strikes. Because it shouldn't be that hard for people to be like, oh yeah, I just worked 5 hours this week. Let's check in and make sure everyone knows, what did I accomplish during 5 hours? For Pavan, that could be as much as $100 for 5 hours of work, right? If he's working it in the middle of the night. So, in the rankings, we should see that Pavan should be ranked at the very bottom. And we need to make it clear to him that, he's ranked really low. Like we don't know necessarily if he's going to be approved in the budget, but it's like right now I don't know what choice we have because we really just need to get people. We need somebody to do canopy work right now. The only person doing canopy work is Pressy. So Pressy gets like double blue stars for being the only person doing canopy work.
Okay, so is
So
that
a question
mean that
on the two recruits. Are they supposed to complete stage 5 to start checking in for canopy, or they just have to start whenever they choose their schedule?
Well, I think that's up to us. I mean, I feel like we could have a much simpler, shorter stage 5 for canopy workers, especially someone like Pavan who wants to make someone it's so expensive.
That is what I was thinking about. If we wait for them to go through the whole process, then For the canopy, let's just have a simpler way whereby they start to focus on canopy.
A suggestion is like to have them have like a stage 5 hyper training so they can just immediately proceed to canopy.
And move to.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Move
down
to
to do a
stage
stage 5 hyper training, and we also need a video for every single component of stage 5. It should be a video. I mean, stage 5 should be able to be done by yourself. You shouldn't even need anyone to schedule anything on stage 5 because it's so easy. So as far as stage 5 hyper training goes, I'm definitely down to schedule that so we can make that a priority. And either way, everybody who's hired into canopy has to do canopy work immediately. They can't only do stage 5, otherwise they shouldn't be getting paid, and they should only be doing, the most essential parts of stage 5s, because that's the priority. But overall, we shouldn't need to hire people like Pavan who want so much money. But we're kind of forced to. But Usman is fine. I mean, I'm not worried about Usman at all. It's just like we didn't do enough recruitment and outreach, and we didn't find enough people, so we only found Usman. He was the only one who's really wanted to step up and do yellow and orange teams. So Zilu's kind of implying he wants to do it, but I'm still not totally convinced on Zilu because he's never ever really done daylight work, let alone real-time virtual assistant work ever, and he's been around for years. So we'll see what happens with Zilu, but if and also Usman primarily scheduled for Old World, so it's like if Pavan's the only person who even wants to step up and do New World, like that's what it is, But I feel like we should do more recruitment and actually keep recruiting people until we find the right people and not stop the recruitment just because we're lazy, It shouldn't be that hard to recruit and find the right people, and we're already making a lot of progress, but we do need to fill all the positions, right, and make sure the work's getting done, including for AGC and possibly also the session support, etc., etc.
So just want to clarify: is the canopy training notes like verified already and can be previewed or reviewed and go through already?
Pressy is the one who did that, so I think she did it, and I think there was 2 trainings that we have out of the 3. So there's 3.
Notes.
There's 3 trainings that need to be done, but only 2 of them have videos. So the third one, I believe, has audio.
By the way, I have to say this. Albina's audio has a video also.
For number 3.
Actually, my audio is I use Loom, so it's kind of
it has video.
It shows the screen, so it shows what's happening.
Well, that's great. So we have video for all 3.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So all 3 of those trainings I think are ready to go. Like they are, do one at a time, but you can go through all 3 of them and be ready for your canopy sessions.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So another thing, Jay, if Abdul is the secondary chief, why are we having the primary and the secondary when we still have other positions? That is what is interested in taking the position.
I'm confused on the question. What's the question?
Okay, we have the primary chief deputy, then we have the secondary. Mm-hmm. Why are we having the primary and the secondary when we still have other positions?
So the primary and the secondary deputy are the 2 most important positions for me. Okay. The way that it works, they're basically the same position, but they just have slightly different schedules. So this is the only position that has a strict schedule. There's no other positions. It's basically all the other positions, people do whatever the hell they want to, right? Which is not particularly helpful because I do all of my best work in the afternoon when no one else is around, right? So in the context of the scheduling, you have the primary deputy works from Tuesday to Friday, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. America's time. I think it's actually a little bit later. I think it's 2 to 7 p.m. Anyways, I don't really know. But we're talking about, basically Cobalt, hour 1, 2, 3, and then Andromeda, hour 3, and Sonic, hour 1. Okay, so that's the primary deputy. The secondary deputy is Friday through Monday, 3 to 6 p.m. America's time, and then only Cobalt. So this is about 20 hours. And this is about 12.
Okay.
So do you see the difference, Albina, in terms of the positions?
It's 9 o'clock.
Yes, seen it.
Yeah, so the secondary deputy it's basically the same thing as the primary deputy. It just works from Friday through Monday, where I do a lot less work from Friday to Monday because it's over the weekend. So it's only during Cobalt time, and then the primary deputy is the main focal point during the actual week when I'm doing all the main work that I do, right? So that would be a lot more time, a lot more focus, but there will be some weekends where the secondary deputy will be a lot more involved and will be more time because something will happen over the weekend that's just going to be a lot busier. But anyways, the idea is that we just have to hire someone who's actually awake and available at the times that we need people, because right now we're just not there, So and then as far as the roles of the primary deputy, they do everything. So they're going to be working on Canopy, they're going to be working on AGC, they're going to be working on session support, they're going to be working on everything, just like I am. So as far as getting the work done, for me, it's the most important position to get all the work done and do the work of coordination and collaboration with everyone else. So it's just essential.
Okay.
For Gino, I already linked the Canopy training notes here
Yes, I see.
under the Canopy budget.
Thank you. One last question, Jay.
And you can also put them
about
in the Discord
main,
as well. Should be good. Yeah, Gino?
like about the main buddy team. My main buddy team is Tamisha, and what do I do?
We have to create
now?
you have to create a new main buddy team.
But there's so I have to wait for a new recruit.
A buddy team can be 3 or 1 or 2.
Just request and join the
You can
can be
choose.
two.
You can
2
choose
to 3.
anyone in the world. Anybody in the world, anybody within the existing teams, anybody within the world, anyone you want can be your main buddy.
So we just have to update pop. Yes.
It has nothing to do with your pop. It has to do with your main
Or
buddy
I mean,
team.
main buddy team pop. I mean.
No, it's your main buddy team doc. So it's you're just basically creating a new main buddy team doc. So the old one would not be applicable if Tamisha's not around anymore. So you create a new main buddy team doc with your new main buddy.
Okay. I understand.
Okay.
And also, we could decide to make Pavan inactive, especially since he ranked so low and he's only doing green team now. We could deactivate him and have him just be backup. But until somebody is doing Canopy work, I think that we probably should wait on that. But that's definitely an option that we could consider. All right, so anything else, or are we done with
So we
this?
just activate him and we tell him, or we wait until the main session for Canopy, then we inform him, because we did the approval in the budget during the main session as a team.
Inform him about what?
You say we deactivate him from the budget.
Well, no, I'm saying if we wanted to, we could propose to deactivate him if that's something we wanted to do.
Okay.
In terms of, okay, so like when we approved him in the budget, we approved him for the yellow team. Remember?
Yeah.
But then he did he updated his pop and he updated everything in his schedule, and he said he only wanted to work 10 hours a week instead of 20. So at that point, he became not only in the green team, but he's ranked lowest in the green team. So he's literally the lowest ranked worker in not only the entire network, but in Canopy. And so that would basically be, automatic proposal for deactivation, if not even removal from the budget. So it's just like, I mean, it's wonderful that he wants to work, but if he only wants to work for 10 hours, it's not particularly helpful. Right?
Okay.
Especially for that kind of money. I mean, we're talking about $800 a month for 10 hours a week. Anyways, it's up to someone to propose it and decide. Otherwise, we can just figure it out later. Because right now, it's not necessarily a priority in the immediate term. All right. So, any other questions on the budget or? And just to make sure it's clear, in my perspective, the budget is good for the month. We approved the monthly budget. Everything was done correctly. We followed all the policies, sort of. We didn't do it perfectly or great, but we did. So now it's only a question of updating the budget with the new recruits, which is really a process of recruitment, not the budget. And if we haven't done the recruitment yet, there's really no reason to be updating the budget without even doing the recruitment. So for me, the biggest problem here is that you guys are putting all this effort into the budget and you're not putting the effort into the recruitment. Like, where is the scheduling for the recruitment? Where is the scheduling for actually achieving the goals and priorities that are required for recruitment? How many recruitment sessions have been scheduled for this recruitment round with me over the last month? What is the total number of recruitment sessions scheduled with me over the last month? That's 30 days.
Okay, for me, I'm going to propose 3 recruitment sessions for this week.
Okay, but that wasn't my question. My question was, how many recruitment sessions have been scheduled over the last month to work on recruitment?
No.
0. Exactly. And how many are supposed to be scheduled to actually complete the recruitment round? It's around, like, I think it's like 4, 5, 6 or something like that. All right. So maybe 3 to 6, something like that. So no one should expect the recruitment round to be completed until the work gets done. All right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Which includes actually scheduling and actually doing recruitment work instead of just not doing it. All right. Anything else on the budget?
None on my side.
For me, either.
I think we're ready to check out. Any more questions?
All right. So before we check out, let's go through our wrap up. Since we're in the series session. Oh, wait, do we want to do? I guess we can do a wrap up real quick, and then we can have part of our checkouts be some of our brainstorming for the next couple of years. Does that sound good?
Yes.
I have 3 proposals on recruitment, okay?
What?
I have 3 proposals on recruitment work session.
Okay, sounds good. Just do check-ins during that time or put them on the Discord. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we're gonna do a round of checkouts, but in our checkouts, let's talk about next steps for high level, everything, and then also any other work priorities and in general, thinking about the next 2 years. So the question would be, what are the next steps for the network over the next 2 years? So kind of think long term, big planning vision in relationship to the Ceres session. And then how the session went for you, your priorities until the next session, which would be like new moon. And that's it. All right, so I'll go first. Sorry, I got a yawn there. All right. So, as far as like the next 2 years and our next steps, I mean, my hope is that within 2 years we are like fully functional, having a stable budget, having stable assets and finances, having like all of our sessions meetings organized with full staffing, that the legions engaged, that our social media and just communication with the public is constant and active, and that there's ideally thousands of people who are interacting and collaborating together on our prioritization and oversight and accountability for all the work that's getting done. Ideally, our recruitment would be active. I mean, my hope is that eventually our recruitment would be, nonstop. Like it just never stops. We're always actively recruiting people and, improving the team, the global core team. I also would love to see our plans to be updated regularly. So I think there are a lot of next steps that we have. I feel like at that point within the next 2 years too, if we get everything functional, we should also be doing our Unity flag and like some of our products and actually be producing like t-shirts and actual flags and actual products that people and our members can actually have physical mailings and actually get these things, either wear them or put them up. And I think that would be really cool to be at that point in a couple years. So, and ideally sooner, right? But of course, there's a lot of work to do. So for me, I feel all of that is not only possible, it's doable, especially in the next 2 years between now and the next Ceres session. And ideally, we are considered equal amongst other, global organizations that are also working towards these goals, because there's at least 5, 10, 20 organizations out there, but it's very hard to communicate and work with them because I think they just don't really acknowledge us or recognize us as functional or important in the movements and in the whole global structures. But hopefully we'll get to that point. As far as how the session went, I think the session went well. I would give it a 6.5. I think the thing that is the worst part about the session was that we just didn't do all of the work to, invite and do outreach. I mean, just the basic work that needs to get done. So it just shows that we need to hire a new person, someone who actually will do the planetary session work. So that would be the session support coordinator. And we should hire someone to do that for all of the planetary sessions. So if we're going to be doing public planetary sessions, we just need to have somebody do the work. And we need to hire someone who actually does it, because right now no one's doing it. Yeah. And from now until the new moon, which is tomorrow, I don't think I'm going to be working on a lot. I mean, I'll do the water. I think the water planning group's coming up later today, and then I'll be working on various aspects of the Ceres session, and then I'll be here for the new moon, the new moon month, which is exciting. Yes, I think it's the last moon month of the quarter. Check. Temi Tope?
Generally, I give the session of 6. This is my first time of attending a Ceres session, so based on everything that I've learned today, I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. More of people involvement, because I see it more as something that should be public facing, but we have been so much into ourselves and we have not really done much. So I'm looking forward to seeing that this is not just for us alone. We have to actually go out there and get people more involved. And in terms of our work commitments, I want to see that we get a grip of how things are and we really commit to doing the work and putting our efforts where it should yield more results. And as the week goes by, I want to schedule for more of the recruitment. I want to have recruitment sessions with Jay, while also having continuing my stage 6 trainings. I know there has been so much on ground and there's conflict of schedules here and there, but I still want to organize myself and get things on the way. Check.
Did you have anything to add in terms of next steps for the next 2 years?
Personally, I for the next 2 years, I want to. I don't want us to. I don't want to be. I don't want to be part of a team that would not go out there and take steps to get people involved. So in the next 2 years, I want to be part of the team to get people more involved in what we do. Because since we say so much about public facing, and we're really not doing that. In the next 2 years, I really want to be part of that. We see that our sessions are well attended, and we get more involvement from the public.
Cool. Yeah, and as far as the ORC, that's the role. The ORC, Outreach and Recruitment Commission, is the focal point for that.
Yeah.
Which are supposed to be heading up. And then in terms of, our public-facing direction, we've only started in the last, month and a half, 2 months, even going public at all, right? So it is brand new.
Yeah.
Check. All right, so who's next? Gino?
Okay. For me, what I would like to see over the next 2 years is for the network to be to be more publicly known to everyone around the world, besides more on the U.S. or more on the other parts of the U.S. And also, I uh, I uh, I have some ideas that would slight would improve on some of the file organizing as well as documents organizing, but I won't suggest that for now because it's not a priority. But hopefully in the next 2 years or so, that and with our notes and notes that we have right now would be much more organized as we were before, as well as for the recruitment. Hopefully in after 2 years, that or between the within those 2 years, we got our recruitment properly uh, organized, that so that any new recruit would understand it or would not have any troubles with it in the future. Hopefully everything would be as would be according to plan, at least most of what I said, because I know saying everything can happen within those 2 years, or it will all go through after all those 2 years. But I like that's just a plan, and I'm looking forward to at least I mean, it's not gonna take a month or a week just to implement new things or change things in the network, but like those changes for the network would be for the best as well. And also have the as you mentioned, when you want the network to have outreach and stuff, I have some ideas as well for that, but I think I won't suggest that for now unless you want to hear it. But I would give this session a 7. It was really informative, and it gave me some newer ideas, but I won't probably share it for now, and we'll just take note of it uh, in a private document somewhere for now, and like, or maybe in the just in my main doc actually. Then um, for this week, hopefully I will have my schedule in check as well, and yeah, uh, that's all. Check.
Cool. And just since you bring it up, even the concept of a private document, and if you're taking any private notes on anything, that would all be against policy, and you would want to fill out policy tracking, and you'd want to make any private notes publicly transparent and linked to your main doc. Everything needs to that you work on, that you get paid for. You have to track all of your hours and anything related to FKN Community Network, period. And anything you're getting paid for, anything you're interacting with in any way, including all of your notes and documentations and anything that you create in relationship to our work, needs to be shared publicly. Okay? Like, you're
Okay.
not allowed to have private notes. That is against policy 100%. And would be, if people are doing that, it would be like, reason to remove someone, because it's just not following the policies of our public work and of public accountability. Okay? Does that make sense, Gino?
Yes.
Do you have private notes?
Nope.
No, you're just
Nope.
saying that you had private notes, but you don't. Okay. Albina.
No.
For me, I would say in the next 2 years, we need to reach out to the public on the Ceres session. This round, we didn't do good outreach, even in my own reminders and sending out the information to the public, so that we have many people to join us in the Ceres session. So I'll be focusing especially on the sessions that happens once, focusing months before the session happens, so that we have enough time to reach out to everyone. We get responses. We know who from the world are going to join us to the session. Also understand we had many sessions previously from last month, this month, and part of September. So in future, we are going to improve on our outreach and Google Calendar updating as well. So my focus for this week, I've sent my 3 proposals on recruitment. I'm going to focus on recruitment and on canopy check-ins, and also working on the activity budget and the entire budget, and also on onboarding stage 5 and 6. So we'll also schedule with you to improve to simplify for the canopy workers on the stage 5, so that they can do it for themselves without going through all the processes, so that we save time and know who are actually working for canopy. Thank you.
Pressy.
Okay. All I am hoping for the next 2 years is we are being able to outreach the public, and maybe we are able to do each session, as you said, to be broadcast on the public, and a public will be there's a public or someone who will join us and cooperate and collaborate with us, and hoping that we can do it sooner before the due date or the due time, 2 years. And I'll give the session 7. It's my first time to attend the series session, and it's also a question mark to me, what is religion, but now it was answered. And next week I'll be focusing on the canopy scheduling, hopefully can do the recruitment, and also session support, and hoping to improve more on the session support side because of a lot of sessions coming, and we've been busy. So I hope that I can, or the team would improve on the session support, so that the upcoming sessions gonna be gonna happen smoothly.
Cool, yeah. All right. So I think we're all done. So let's make sure. Good work, everybody. Let's make sure we are updating the value tracking.
Yes.
And just to remind everyone, for the value tracking, 1 hour of series time is valued at like 600 hours per one normal Gregorian hour or something like that. Over 600 hours. Although we lose all of our network equity because we didn't do the work of just like the basic invitations, the membership, and everyone. But we still get internal organizational equity for the FQN workers org in relationship to the series session. So, yeah, good stuff. So let's. I think that's it. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone's welcome to check in for the water session. Then we have the new moon session tomorrow. And I think there's a few other sessions as well. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You
you
know,
very
kindly
much.
help me with value tracking.
Do you have our